Welcome to the Rooted in Ag podcast, part of the We Are Extension podcast series broadcasted through Douglas County Extension in Lawrence, Kansas. Rooted in Ag refers to the deep connection and importance of agriculture to a region's history, culture, and identity, as well as the practical aspects of food production and land management. Gather around the table. Together, we can be rooted in ag as a symbol of regeneration, resilience, and hard work, celebrating our enduring connection to the land. We will also get down to the latest best management practices in farming and ranching as we meet producers and practitioners, sharing stories and resources of new technologies aimed at improving sustainability, innovation, and food security. Let's get started. Well, hello. I am proud to welcome my very first guest to the Rooted in Ag podcast, Margaret Kalb from Baldwin area in Douglas County. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great. Margaret is a fourth-generation family farmer in Douglas County and serves as a foundation stone in our farm community, along with many of the other Douglas County frontier farm families, as I like to refer to them. They've lived and worked alongside each other over the past 4 or 5 generations, since the time of Bleeding Kansas. And Margaret, you've shared such an amazing little summary of, being raised on a dairy farm that's been in the family since 1860. And then you were very active in 4-H. Your mother raised sheep, and so you were all showing sheep as children. And oh my gosh, it goes on, having chickens and, raising eggs and meat birds, and then marrying a farmer and raising your own family on your family farm. Wow, what a legacy, right? And you've been so active in 4-H, from raising your children through 4-H and then serving on our extension board and Douglas County Fair Executive Administrator for over 20 years. And I just wanted to thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, it's just been a joy to see what you've done and hear stories, and being so welcomed as a new agent myself in Douglas County. As you were passing the baton, I remember in 2022, Candace Lavalette was coming on, and I felt so welcomed as a new agent as I was coming on, and then your son Stephen was on the board.
Yep.
So it was cool that you were passing the baton to him as he was taking leadership on participating in the executive board. So it's just been great hearing your stories and learning more about you. I just wonder what really stands out to you as far as part of your history. You're such a storyteller, and I would just love to hear some of the highlights from your family's first farm, or anything you're wanting to share about your farm life in Douglas County.
Well, as far as my family, the Metzger family, I was a Metzger before I married my husband. They came here from Indiana in 1860 and established the farm, and the house that I grew up in was built from lumber cut from the farm, and it's still standing. Nobody lives in it anymore, but 160 acres of it is in my brother's name, and 80 acres has been purchased by 2 of my nephews who farm out in the area. And then my husband's family came from Ohio, and they established their farm in 1890 east of Baldwin, and that's where we live now, and still farm all of their original farm ground, plus some that we've bought over the years, and do sharecropping as well as cash rent to a lot of farm acres down in that area.
Oh, that's cool. And so then, as your parents were being raised on that farm, your grandparents, imagine back then the succession transfer was probably simpler in a way, right? To pass the farm on.
Yes.
Than it is today.
Yes, it is. Yes. Because I had 3 brothers. My oldest brother always had hay fever and asthma, so he wasn't able to help put up the hay for the dairy cattle and work with that, but he was in charge of all the milking. He and my mom would do a lot of the milking while my dad farmed the ground. So 2 of my other brothers then eventually went into business together raising hogs until the hog market kind of, went. And now they've passed it on to 2 of my nephews.
I see. So, and yet herd health management is a key part of a dairy. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, and I worked with dairy farmers in Wisconsin where the multi-generations would often divide, and one would be in charge of the crops and one would be in charge of the herd health. That's a very kind of common way to share that kind of a business because there's so many aspects to it.
Well, and that's one of the things I think has been lost here in Douglas County is the dairies. Oh, I can remember how many dairies we had. And like you touched on my recollections of the fair, we used to have 2 of the old dairy barns down here that were absolutely packed with dairy cattle from all the numerous dairy farms we had. And one barn even had a milking stanchion in it, so because they would bring their cows and they'd have to be milked twice a day. So that was really something that the community here could experience, seeing a cow being milked. And I can so vividly remember 2 of the families, the Tall Dairy and the Flory Dairy. They kind of had a contest to see who could bring a cow that would have a calf at the fair. That was their goal, to have a cow have a calf at the fair, so that kids, the community, if they happened to be there at the right time, they could catch the birth of that calf here at the fair. It was a thing that happened every year. They planned it that way.
Oh my gosh, that would have been something indeed. And then just to see them, be licked off and get up and start nursing right away. My gosh.
Yeah.
That would have been exciting for anyone who could witness it if it wasn't 2 a.m.
Well, I remember a lot of them being born in the daytime because it was word spread fast through the fairgrounds that the calf was coming, and everybody would run in to watch.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool. And then as far as like your children's experiences in 4-H, of course, besides bringing the calves or the cows, did you also have sheep or other livestock that you were bringing
yes.
for the children that you're...
Because I showed sheep mainly. That was one of my main projects, although I did show some of my mom's chickens. I can remember my very first year in 4-H, I had the grand champion chicken at the fair. And the chicken judging wasn't like it is today, where it's a show that people come and watch. The judge just came in and judged the chicken, so I didn't even realize that my chicken had won until somebody came and told me. And I went down and checked, and there was the grand champion ribbon. So when I got my kids started, of course, we were raising a lot of beef cattle and we had hogs, but I wasn't sure that my oldest son was going to take to those kind of animals and right away. So I bought a sheep herd and from a family down in Ottawa that was decided not to have sheep anymore. And that's how I got my kids started, was showing sheep first.
Yeah, they're smaller to handle for the littler kids, and yet some of them just take to it, right? So that's really cool. And as far as we'll get back to some fair discussion, but as far as some of the transitions you've seen in agriculture, over these generations, what really stands out to you most is what we've learned as a farm community, or what challenges have we overcome? I don't know. There's so many questions, possibilities, but...
Well, I'd say probably one of the biggest things that I miss is the dairies. Yeah. That I always thought that was great. And of course, they've all gone to more corporate dairies. My daughter lives out in Garden City, Kansas now, and they have a lot of big corporate dairies out there. But it's just to me, probably one of the biggest changes in agriculture now is how technology has come into play with farming. We have tractors that will drive themselves, the sprayer, the combines have that. So basically you turn the equipment around and push a button and it takes off and goes all by the satellite. We are now implementing some drone technology, using drones to spray our crops so that you don't have to drive through them with a big sprayer and tromp down some crops. So, and especially here in Douglas County, the size of the actual farms is getting bigger and bigger. There's fewer and fewer small farms, and those tend to be ones that are raising specialty crops, like having their own vegetables grown and flowers.
Or small livestock.
Yeah, small livestock. Yeah.
So there's, in a way, bifurcation, but also maybe more diversity in having the mixture of the smaller niche farms.
Right, yes.
Producers that are providing local foods, as well as the commodity farms that are working it.
And as far as for the commodity farmers, fewer and fewer are using the little local elevators. We contract a lot of our crops. 2 semis come in last night, pick up corn. It gets usually hauled to the chicken farms in Arkansas. So
I see. Yeah, right. So they're working in that whole sort of larger scale, all of it.
Yes, they are. Everything's getting much larger scale, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just neat to see, in a way, the efficiency of some of the technology being used to maybe allow for a little bit more focus on the management side, so that the technology can help take care of the crops in a more efficient manner, and then it gives more time to plan or marketing of your crop, et cetera. That takes a lot more effort.
Yes, you have to start planning really before the crop is actually harvested to figure out, because seed salesmen want your orders in right away, and of course the cost of fertilizer is so expensive, so you've got to work with that and figuring out where you're going to get the best deals on fertilizer and pesticides, herbicides, yeah.
And so then, in a way, it just, it comes a flow, right? With the annual cycle of planning ahead of the next season is always being ahead of the game, right?
Right.
So that's cool. And then your family still raises cattle, so...
Yes, we have a large commercial cow calf operation.
Right, and then integrating that with pasture management.
Right.
I know Steve was doing some playing around with the cover cropping, and that's something that I need to follow up with him on sometime, but...
Yes, we are really into utilizing a lot of the cover crop. We plant rye. He has done turnips. My 13-year-old grandson has even incorporated that in my garden in planting rye and turnips, kind of put back some organic matter into my garden. So
cool. Yeah, that's cool. I bet you're seeing the difference. So yeah, and then of course, as we're coming up on fair season again, and I'll flip back to that a little bit, because I know like you're so immersed with so much of the projects with your grandchildren. And so I'd love to hear some of like your experiences and guiding them, or what they're working on right now, and just how you're shaping them as far as, I always wonder, do farm families present 4-H as like, well, if you want to go into agriculture, not that it's only for agricultural development, but yeah, just interesting.
Well, I don't think it's so much that... I know my son and daughter-in-law didn't do it that way. My daughter-in-law, she grew up around the Clinton area with her grandparents out there, and her grandparents had cattle, and her mom's a vet, and she was very active in 4-H and showed registered semitals. So that's what my grandkids show, is registered semital heifers and steers, and they just competed in the Kansas Junior Semital Association show. Nice. And the contest that they hold with that. And so we have 5 semital heifers this year. Well, some of them are what they call percentage heifers that they're showing. They'll be showing those at the fair. And my 9-year-old grandson developed a love of hogs. We haven't had hogs on our farm in a long time. We didn't farrow. We had a finishing floor and had finished hogs out from, well, my husband started finishing hogs when he was still in high school, buying feeder pigs. And we got out of that after the hog prices went to nothing. But anyway, Bennett had developed a love of hogs. I don't know how. And he kept telling people when he was little that when he got in 4-H, he was going to have 10 pigs. We tried to encourage him that no, that we're not having 10 pigs. But we have 3 this year. Bennett has 2 and Brady has 1. And then Bennett's 9-year-old sister, they're twins, she didn't want anything to do with the pigs, but boy, she sure wanted sheep. And when she found out that we had sheep on the farm in the past, so she has a couple of lambs. So 5 heifers, 3 hogs, 2 sheep. Every morning. That's yours. But they love it.
Of course.
It teaches them the responsibility and the care of livestock, and they have learned so much about livestock. And like we can send Brady out, check cattle, and do all of that.
And then here with 4-H helps with all their background learning, which is so amazing. People might not realize behind the scenes that there's all sorts of education happening about how to care for the animals, the youth quality assurance care of the animals so that they're handled humanely, and children are learning this right from a very young age, and whether they go into agriculture or not, but they'll have that foundation. And I guess that's the cool thing I've always admired about 4-H, having the traditions passed on from one generation to the next, and they're learning meat judging and how to judge the health of an animal. That's what the judges are looking for. So they have to know what the judges are going to be looking for at the fair in order to know whether their animal is going to make the cut or not, right? So it helps them keep track of how does their animal looking and doing and all that's involved.
I've always told people that 4-H is all about teaching life skills.
Yes.
And if you want to go into agriculture, then the life skills really come into play there.
But if it's not, and there's plenty of room for people not in in farming, even if you're not in an agricultural family or a farm family, you can still participate in 4-H at so many levels. And it's only growing, right, with photography and now STEM and technology. And I just admire all the projects these children are doing at various levels, sewing or cooking and life skills. I mean, it's all good. And then it shapes leadership as they participate in their local clubs and everything.
Yes, it does. Yeah, leadership and citizenship are both big aspects of 4-H, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They should be.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fair this year. It's coming up here July 20th 19th is the pet show.
Right.
And then the 20th is the fashion show. The fair officially opens Monday, July 28th, and they'll be accepting open class entries, right? So anybody in the community can bring a fair entry to the fair on that day, Monday, which is always exciting to see all the people showing up.
And I used to tell, when I was working for the fair board, I'd tell people that if you raise flowers, go outside and pick a nice flower and bring it in for the show. If you like to bake, there's all kinds of classes that you can enter in baking, and they've added an open class poultry and rabbit show this year.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so if you've got backyard chickens, we don't have a lot of people that have backyard chickens now. Bring one in.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the children even can enter into open class entries.
Right.
They don't have to be part of a 4-H club. And so there's whatever little Lego projects they bring or kits they've made or art projects. All of that's welcome. So if they've done anything in the last school year or even this summer working on various sewing or art projects, anybody's welcome to come and bring an entry on Monday, July 28th, right? They all have to be brought in that day.
Yeah, between 1 and 6. But even if you don't want to come and exhibit, I would encourage people just to come so that you can see what agriculture in Douglas County looks like with all the livestock exhibits that the kids have. And there is a crop category for agronomy.
Garden vegetables.
All garden vegetables, of course, and flowers. Oh my gosh, we get beautiful flowers.
It is. It's so
I'd encourage anybody to come out. It's free. It's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today on Rooted in Ag podcast. We've enjoyed a visit with Margaret Kalb, 4th generation Douglas County farmer, farm wife, and just I've appreciated gaining your perspectives in little vignettes here of life in Douglas County Ag.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for listening to K-State Extension Douglas County's podcast. We hope you tune in again for not only more research-based information and resources you can trust, but also good conversation. Until next time.